the fuel tank full of very stale old fuel. So need to get that out, give it a really good clean. Now usually I would use white vinegar and salt. This time I was thinking about just using Coke, but I have got, I think, some molasses. And I've seen a lot of good stuff about using molasses to get rid of rust, especially for sort of old cars, big wings and things like that, where there's lots of nooks and crannies that you can't get into. So what I thought I'll do is I'll do a mix of 50-50 water and Coke, and then give it a really good dose of molasses, and then I'll leave it for a week or two, see how it works out. Having had a brief look at the fuel tap, it looks to me like there's a filter bowl at the bottom, and I'm expecting there must be screws going through that way to actually hold it onto the tank, because there's nothing else visible. So let's see about getting the filter bowl off. That came loose and quickly. Always makes sense if you're playing about with things that contain fuel or with fuel. If preferably I do it outside, but if you know, haven't got any other options, doing it inside, make sure you've got your trusty friend, the fire extinguisher nearby. Yeah, always think safety first. Right, so there is a filter here. Let's see. Need replacing anyway, so let's not worry about that too much. Have another pull of this. What I'm going to do is just try to get a bit of, oh, there we go, bit of leverage. Oh, that was lovely. Worked out in the end. Put them to one side. Now then, make sure I've got the right bit on there. Just, oh, it's gone. I got the impact out. Two reasons. One is I might need to use it. The second is because it's got a nice thick handle, you can give it a bit more oomph. So even if you're not using it as an impact driver, sometimes it's quite good to use something like this. Yeah, and it just gives you that bit more oomph. Maybe I'm just getting weak. So let's undo them and we'll see how we go. I mean, I doubt these have been out in 50 years. Birthday of this bike next month. They're quite long. Right, so we're nearly out with these. Don't forget these are JIS screws. Phillips, I think, with the point just taken off. Some, you know, screwdrivers can be used. I'm interested to see what the fuel looks like when it comes out of here. It smells like thin as paint cleaner. So maybe it's not fuel, maybe it's something that the previous owner put in to protect the tank. It doesn't half smell funny though, so we'll see. As you can see under the tank, you can still see the blue paint. I'm intending to take that to a paint shop and try and get a match to that with a modern colour. See what they suggest. So not a bad idea, I think. No. Definitely done it now. So let's give it a bit of a wiggle. Oh, here we go. Oh. The inside of the tank's not looking that clean, is it? No wonder it wasn't going to let it out. So, just a little bowl, handily, assuming it was petrol, and it possibly isn't. It'll clean out all the old oil as well. So let's give it a go. Well, that looks nasty. I There isn't much in. What there is has a rusty brown colour. I suspect that's come from wiggling it around before. What I'm going to do is hopefully rest the tank on there, save me having to hold it. Let's see what we can do. Because of the tunnel, some of the petrol will have stayed on that side. That's why I'm just trying to get it all over to this side and let it run out. I've done better than this in the past. Ooh. Should be wearing gloves. Right, I'll drain the rest of that out and we'll see where we go on. Well, it just goes to show how much fuel would still stay in the tank. About a litre, even when you've got the pet cork off and you're waggling it about. Turned it upside down to get the rest out. Let that drain off for a little while and then I'll have another good look at the tank. Well, nasty looking stuff that came out of there. It does look like it has got rust in it. I suspect where it wasn't, the tank did have rust inside. We'll talk about how we'll clean it again. Thank God they drained it out of the carbs is all I can say. It's like something out of an experiment. Never seen anything quite like that. Moving on with cleaning my tank, obviously I've taken the fuel taps off. And what I want to do is just seal that over. So what I've got is a little plate to go on there. Nice bit of rubber seal on there. So I'll just get some, and these are M6 screws. I don't think the originals would have gone too far through, but I thought I'll use some shorter ones anyway. So we'll just bang that on to seal it up. And then I can get on with washing the inside out a little bit further. I think initially I'm going to actually let it soak in Coke for a week or so. Then I'll move on to my favourite, which is vinegar and salt. When you use Coke to clean your tank, and you give it a bit of that to get it really going, one of the added things that you can check is whether it's sealing the tank or not. Well, after about an hour of rinsing, swilling, soapy water, cold water, shaking, I've decided that it's clean enough now. So what I've done is I've put it this way in the sun so that God will dry it off for me for a bit, I'd hope. Then I'm going to put a couple of cups full of paraffin in, kerosene for those of you in America. Give it a shake around and then that should be it. Empty it out and should be okay, shouldn't re-rust, and is definitely clean enough inside now for fuel. Well then, I gave it about 2 weeks and then I'll give it a really good swill out. Oh, the junk that came out of this tank is absolutely unbelievable. Looking inside, what there seems to have happened is the molasses has taken off the rust and turned it into like a black scab. The actual rust itself's gone, but there's still the stain there where it was. I've now put some paraffin, kerosene in there, just to give it a swirl around, and then I'll empty that out before I put fuel in. I think the tank's perfectly usable as it is now. I mean, it's not perfect by any stretch, but I suspect most tanks aren't. I'm really dubious about putting a liner in, unless there was pinholes or something like that, because I've seen so many bad stories about the liners flaking off and such like, so you end up worse off than where you started. But overall, I'm pleased. What it does mean though is I can now get on and start sanding the tank, get it ready for painting.